So earlier this year, I decided to attack the project of putting a French cleat or a slat wall, I guess a French cleat wall, up in my shop. It originally started off just to put my small tools that I had. I kind of like the idea of making custom holders for each of them. And so I would just kind of use some scrap wood to fiddle around one night and make something, and fiddle around the next night and make something else. And actually had fun trying to make pieces that would custom fit each of my tools. Some of them came out better than others. And then back in January or February, I decided to tackle this wall, and I wanted to put my larger drills and other things like that up on that wall. And I've still got some space to go, but I'm getting there little by little. One of the things that I've actually had a lot of fun doing is just taking scrap pieces of just garbage wood, like these 2x4s, or a piece of an old shelf that I salvaged somewhere, or some MDF, or something from a dresser. I think I got some of that stuff from, and just again gradually turn it into pieces that'll custom fit everything. But one problem that I've had is router bits. I had stuff all over the place in my shop. A little box here, a little container there from Home Depot, something from Craftsman, an individual one I bought in a clearance somewhere. And so every time I wanted one, I had to go hunting and pecking for them. And so I decided that I would make a box to hold all of my router bits. And while all the other pieces have been just garbage wood, for whatever reason, I thought it would be fun to make one out of some of the little bit nicer pieces of wood that I've got around here. And so that's what I have done here. This has been made out of some oak plywood that I got for a project for my mom, some oak, solid oak here from some dresser that I dismantled. These were drawers, a little bit of mahogany trim from that same project for my mom. And then this is some shockingly beautiful wood that came off of the back side of a dresser somewhere. I don't think anybody ever intended for it to be seen, but it is amazing. So anyway, what I'm gonna do in this video is just kind of show you the impetus behind why I made it and how I made it, and just kind of catalog that journey. So hopefully you'll stick around for me and have some fun. It's not perfect, but I had a lot of fun, and that's the only reason I'm down here. So if you guys learned something, great. If you just have a good time, also great. Let's get to it.
So I started out first just by figuring out how many bits I had, kind of anticipating I might buy some more in the future, and then just kind of generally figuring out how much spacing I need between them. I think I went like 1.5 inches or something between each bit. I'm using 1/4 inch bits, so I don't need as much spacing as 1/2 inch bits. Then I just cut the MDF that I'm going to be using to put the bits into on the sides, cleaned up some edges here, then marked out the location of each of the holes. So I did my holes in 2 different rows. Some are a little bit closer for smaller straight bits, and some are a little bit farther apart.
So came back the next day, got the router bits in here and just kind of roughly situated. And I've got 2 or 3 that are a little bit tall. And what I found, I was going to try to use this on the side of the box, but it's not going to fit. A couple of these sit a little too tall. I don't know how well that comes across on the camera. So, and it might be just as well, because with all these bits and the MDF, and this, it's getting a little bit heavy. So went back to my wood pile, and over the years I have found the odd dresser sitting in my neighborhood that someone's trying to get rid of, and I have salvaged the drawers from that, which are a bit thinner. Maybe they're just a little under 1/2 inch thick. But since this is mainly going to sit on a shelf or something anyway, I'm not too concerned about the thickness, as long as it just kind of works. And they just so happen to be the right length, or just about the right length, to fit this box. So obviously I'll have to cut the top down. So let's get to fitting this thing out.
So once I had the pieces cut to length and width, I just decided just to kind of use my carpenter square here to figure out the right height, and then scribe that on all the different pieces. Once I had the fence set to the right distance away from the blade, I could just feed everything through, and that way everything would be the same. Or that way it can be consistent across everything, rather than trying to cut each piece individually. Then I just assembled it. Since this was primarily just going to sit around, not be under a lot of use, I just used glue to glue these things together. I don't know if it's going to hold in the long term, but so far it's held up just fine. I misaligned this edge here, and that came back to haunt me later on, but of course while I was doing this I didn't see it. So you know, little lessons you learn. Overall, every time I do these projects though, I get better and better. So then I had this piece of plywood. I wished I could have had the grain go the other way, but it wasn't quite as long as it was wide, and this was the only way to get the width out of it that I needed. So, you know, since it was just a shop project, I was just trying to use up scraps. I didn't care too much. Cut it all down to size, glue it up. I'm intentionally leaving the plywood a little bit proud of the edges, and I'll come back later with my flush trim bit and get it right in size. So this was some wood that I got off of the back of some dresser somewhere. I don't even remember what it was for. It was never intended to be seen. It did turn out to be my favorite wood of this entire project, and I have no idea what it is. But later on, when I get some finish on it, you'll just see this amazing rich color that comes up. Trying to figure out how much space I need with my fingers, and I found a washer that kind of fit the diameter of my fingers, and use that to kind of line everything out. Cut these down to size. These are going to be the handles on the sides of the boxes, by the way. Stick them together with double-sided tape so that I can shape them and have them both be the same. I love this stuff, by the way. I think it's carpet tape, actually. Then use my bandsaw just to kind of hog out the bulk of the material. Yes, I'm getting some burning there. This bandsaw blade needed to be replaced a long time ago. I think I replaced it right after this project. The first piece kind of was a little bit weird to cut everything out. Later on, I just did these relief cuts, and that made it a lot easier to cut this shape, even with this, I think that's a 3/8 inch blade or something like that. So, and then I just used my spindle sander to get all the burn marks and kerf marks out, get this thing down to its final size. As I was doing this, I realized that the top corners needed to come down quite a bit, and rather than trying to sand them down, I stepped away to the bandsaw and just kind of cut these curves off, or cut those corners off to make these nice curves. So, sanding them down. Check the fit. Fits my fingers pretty nice. All ready to go. So now I'm just coming back with my flush trim bit, which incidentally I think this was the bit that I bought for a different project that prompted me to realize I needed a storage solution for all of these things. So I love this thing. It's really changed things up. I used to have to try to cut things to fit, and then I realized I could just cut them oversized and trim them down. So here's some old mahogany strips that I had from a previous project, something I did with my mom. And I'm just cutting them down to to fit the box. I'm using a little trick here I call it a chemical clamp, where I use this Titebond CA glue and activator along with wood glue. So the wood glue I think gives a bit more strength, but the Titebond allows me to get the stuff to set and hold in place rather than having to clamp it down and wait for the glue to dry. So I use that a number of times in this project and actually other ones to kind of hold everything in place, let the wood glue do its thing, and so I can move on without having to leave for 20-30 minutes at a time to let everything set. So this is a kit that I built for a project years ago to cut large things that I can't fit on my fence. It's great for cutting box openings down. I realized I'd left my riving knife in and had to stop and then start over again. That's what happens when you get in a hurry. There we go. And so now I can cut the box and have it ride along this tall surface. It's not perfectly square, but for this purpose it does fine. I like to put these little shims in there as you cut the box. Then they like to kind of close up and fill up that curve there, and it can cause some problems, make for some uneven cuts. So I'll go through and cut these and then put the shims in there again, and that way the distance that the lid is from the base doesn't change, doesn't close up, and either make for uneven or crooked surfaces. So, and freeing it up. There's always a little bit of clenching right here. It usually works, but it's always a little bit nerve-wracking. Testing it in. I drilled a couple holes in the bottom to allow me to remove the base as I need to. Lining out where the handles are going to go, and then using again the wood glue and CA glue chemical clamp here to hold everything in place. So just like that, CA glue sets, and I can move on. And it's holding strong enough for me to move this thing around without worrying about something falling apart or a seal breaking or whatever. Digging through my scrap pile, I had an old piano hinge in here. Probably not the best hinge for this project, but it's what I've got. So what you've got is better than what you don't. So get everything lined up, and spaced out evenly. Tape it down so it doesn't move, and then I go in with a centering drill bit. Drill all the holes out, or at least drill most of them out. Get the screws in there, and then once it's in there, I'll take the tape off, drill the last of the holes, and wrap this project up. Done. So here's the obligatory glamour shot. A little bit of dust on there. Probably should have cleaned this up before I did it, but hey, whatever. It's a little bit odd at the top having the plywood sides, but I don't mind. I think it adds a little bit of rustic charm or something like that. And again, I enjoy finding creative ways to just use the scraps that I've got in my shop without having to go buy new stuff. So there's those beautiful handles out of that mystery wood, and I've got room for some more bits down the road if I need to. So hopefully you guys had fun with me on this journey. Thank you so much for watching.